meet my new children that I'm not gonna kill this year. So today I wanted to talk about my favorite stories from art school. If any of these stories are about you, I just want you to know I'm not making fun of you. This is not me being mean. I honestly just feel like art school is its own world and people just need to know what goes on there. I don't hate any of these people I'm gonna talk about. I honestly just think these stories are funny. There's gonna be a lot of bodily fluids talk in this video, so if you can't handle that, you should just click off the video now. So let's pull a hot wings. We'll start mild and then go spicy. Yeah? Great. The first story I have was when I was in college. I was curating like our end of year exhibition. This was my first time curating, so I didn't know what I was doing. So it was just a learning experience for me. And boy, did I ever learn. It was incredibly stressful. Also, participating in the show was part of our mark, so everyone in the class had to submit something. If you did not submit something to the show, you were losing marks. So there was one person in my class that was incredibly difficult during the whole planning of this exhibition. Let's call him Jack. This is a democracy. Everyone who plans on participating in the exhibition had a say in the planning of the exhibition. Jack was constantly derailing conversations, interrupting people while they were trying to speak, and telling people that their ideas were stupid. It was hard having him around, I will say that, but nevertheless, we pushed through. He constantly voiced his anger about the decisions myself and my classmates made about the exhibition, but as the exhibition began approaching, we started seeing less and less of him. He wasn't coming to school for whatever reason. Anyway, the class settled on Canadiana as the theme of the exhibition. Everyone needed to let me know what artwork they were submitting to the show on a certain date. They also needed to give me their artist statement, image details, biography, etc. If they didn't submit those things by the deadline, then they weren't going to be in the show and they were going to lose marks. So the deadline comes and goes. A few people didn't submit their work, Jack included. So the day of the exhibition comes. Jack shows up out of the blue, offering to help set things up for the exhibition. Now I'm thinking in my head, wow, that is so nice of him to do that. I didn't know better, okay? Anyway, myself, Jack, and a few of my other classmates all carry everyone's piece on the subway down to the venue to go set everything up. When we get there, Jack pulls out an incredibly large mason jar. I'm not talking like those mason jars that are like those guys. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like these guys. Okay? It's filled with a yellow liquid and it has the Canadian flag inside of it. So he pulls this out and he says, "This is my piece. Where's it gonna go?" basically. And I'm like, what? You didn't submit anything. You didn't tell me that you were going to submit anything. You didn't give me any of the details I needed like a month ago. So needless to say, I'm confused. I'm telling him I'm confused. At which point he starts arguing with me. So anyway, someone else, one of my classmates, interjects and they're like, "What is in the jar? Like, what is that?" And he says, "It's my pee." Like, I don't know how he had it in him, literally, but he filled a huge mason jar with his own pee and put the Canadian flag in it. This was my first experience dealing with bodily fluids, but not my last. Not even close. Basically, the issue was, though, that I gave everyone a certain amount of space, and I just didn't account for his work because I didn't think that he was going to be in the show, plus I hadn't seen him in like a really long time. So I just was not expecting this to come up. So the show literally opened in like 3 hours at this point. I still needed to get ready. I needed to go grocery shopping to pick up food for the opening night, which was that night, and we still needed to hang everyone's piece. So personally, I would never offer this option to anyone, but I feel like my classmates felt that in order to keep the peace, we needed to do this. But basically, they were thinking that, okay, if you can get us all of the information that we need, that we asked for like a month ago, then we'll find space for your piece, which I think is like a really nice thing for them to do. So we all agreed on that. He said that that was fine and he would do that. But then he starts dictating where his piece is gonna go. He wants his piece right beside where we're gonna put out the food for everyone to eat. Imagine you go to an art gallery and there's a jar of pee right beside the chips you're eating. Delicious. So I put my foot down. I say, no, it's not gonna happen. We're giving him other options of where he can put his piece, but he's adamant. He's like, no, I don't want it there. It has to go beside the food. So I basically just say, it's not going beside the food. If you don't like it, then you're not going to be participating in the exhibition. At which point, he absolutely loses it. Like, I still to this day don't think I've seen anyone lose it like this. He like just screamed at me for like a long amount of time. I don't even know how long. Called me every name in the book. Like, what's going on? Like, I didn't know how to react to him. He does this like long speech about how I'm like an awful, terrible person. And then he takes his jar of pee and storms out and then just like whips it into the dumpster. Like, that's kind of like out front of the gallery to the side. And then he just leaves. And that was that. That was the end of that. I still see Jack on the street to this day, and I'm pretty sure he's still mad about it. We do not speak. I don't think we'll ever speak again. But it is what it is. Anyway, let's go into a different story. Something less drama-filled, light and funny. So these next two stories happened when I was in university. I really like both of these people that these stories are about. Anyway, so this one happened in my third year painting class. We had an assignment where we had to work with a material that we've never worked with before. So let's call this girl Lucy. So anyway, Lucy made this painting. It was small. It's probably like this big. It was a hot pink background, a crib painted with like brown paint, and then sparkles on it, and then it had like a resin over it. For anyone who doesn't know what resin is, it's basically like a gloss that seals the surface of your painting. If I can find a picture of something painted in resin, I'll put it up here. We were doing critiques. I don't really remember what I said. I think I asked her like a question, and she started talking about the piece a little bit. And then someone asked, so what is the material that you're using here that you've never used before? And she's like, well, you see the like crib part of the painting? And everyone's like, yes. She's like, well, I used my own poop. This was my first poop experience, so I was a little bit caught off guard by it. I feel like the whole vibe of the room kind of changed after that. Vibes were different. So I didn't know this at the time, but like there's basically a rule at my school that if you're using bodily fluids in your work, you need to seal the piece. So that's basically where the resin came in. The piece didn't smell at all because the resin had sealed the whole surface of the piece, and it was basically trapped underneath that resin. It created a barrier, and I think we were all so thankful for that barrier. Anyway, then she began to tell us the whole process of how she did it. She told us that she took like a can of beans, emptied out the can, cleaned it, and then pooped in the can, put on a glove, and then took her finger and applied the paint that way. She said she tried a paintbrush, it didn't work. It wasn't working as well as how her finger worked. She also said she threw the paintbrush out, so not to worry about that. And yeah, to this day, I wonder where that painting is. I'm wondering, is it hanging in her living room, above the couch type thing, like what I'm doing over here? Is it one of those, just like chilling above the couch? I just want to know. Moving on. Now again, this next story, I really like the girl who this is about. She was super nice, super sweet. So this story takes place in my final year of university. There was a girl in one of my classes, let's call her Betty. She was in a class where basically we were encouraged to work with different media throughout the whole semester. So kind of like the last assignment I was talking about, but basically we had the whole semester. We picked one media and we just explored that media. You had to work on the piece in class. My teacher would come around, make sure that you're working on it, see like the development you were making and stuff like that. And Betty was in my class. She is like really like a talented artist. I wouldn't be surprised if she's like very successful right now, but she was just like working on her computer. I couldn't tell what she was working on. Like she would always be like writing something or doing something else. I knew that she wasn't slacking off or anything like that. So I just got like really curious. I wanted to know what she was working on. So I asked her. She said that she was gonna make a large-scale installation piece with her period blood and some wool. I'm like, cool. This is not my first rodeo at this point. I'm in my last year of university. I've seen it all. I'm a hardened individual. So I'm just like, that's cool. I can't wait to see how it's gonna turn out. I am accepting. It was the next part I was not ready for. She then asked me if I was willing to participate in the project by providing her with material because she could only provide so much material herself. Just wasn't ready for the question. So I said yes, but I knew I would not be able to help her. I'm just not there with my body to be able to participate in a project like that. And I knew that at that time too, but I still said yes because I felt bad for saying no. I should have just said no. Anyway, I regret saying yes because of what ensued next. She basically explained what I would have to do to participate in the project, which was to collect my own material and then put it in a container and then put it in the microwave and then give it to her. Anyway, she continued to ask me for a while for my material, and I just did not know how to say no. She messaged me on Facebook. She saw me in class every week, trying to figure out when she could get this material from me. And I always made up some excuse, and I still feel bad about doing that, but I couldn't do it. But anyway, I'm sorry for not helping you with your project and having no intention of helping you with your project. All right, so there are tons more stories. Those are just the ones that kind of came to my head, but that's going to be the end of this video. If you guys like this video, then give it a like. If you want to subscribe, then subscribe. And I will see you next week for I don't know what yet, but I will see you next week. Bye.